Welcome back, everyone, to Red Spotlight Entertainment. I'm Alexis, joined by David Francisco, of course, here for the show that brings you everything coming out of the world of movies and more. And this is going to be our second installment of our Spielberg Files, recapping everything the world of Steven Spielberg and the films that he has made and the films that he has been a part of, which is a very long project to tackle. I'm a little bit nervous just now, thinking out loud here that we may not be able to get in time for July when the new movie comes out, which is kind of the point of us doing this. But come hell or high water, we're going to be able to do these shows. You know, we obviously love Steven Spielberg. If you were able to catch our first show, we had such a great time with it. We ourselves are also a bit surprised how much more we were even able to say, considering these are films that people have already said so many things about, which is hilarious, to tell you the truth. Anywho, on the road to the new Steven Spielberg Disclosure Day, we are here with 4 movies, and this will be interesting because, well, for one, they're not all directed by him. And why we picked one of these is actually quite an interesting tale. But anyway, that's going to be our show here today on Red Spotlight number. I don't know what this is going to be. I'm not even going to pretend to give this a title just yet, because if you, I don't know if you could tell from the first edition, was recorded way before some of the earlier episodes. So with our podcasts, we like to give them numbers. I don't know what number we're gonna give this.
I think we're on 5:30. So
we are on 5:30, and I could say that this is 5:30, except what gives me pause is the fact that we've been recording a lot more of the regular shows than we had been in a long time, and so because of that, I can't be too sure that this will be 5:30, and then especially because of all the news that's happening. I mean, we're recording this on February 26th. Today it was announced that the movies are over. So, what better way to celebrate the end of film than to, I'm referring to Paramount, by the way. They won. We're all dead. We're all gonna die. And that's just the end of it. Or maybe we won't. And maybe people will reject it, and maybe Paramount will go bust. The only problem with that is WB will go bust too. That's not great for movies at all. So, not a great time. So, of course, with the depressing nature, as it usually is the case, we are very much taking an opportunity to look back, which is why we've also been kind of reliving the past with the 20th anniversary of the High School Musical films, which we're also about to finish. Actually, say finish from our perspective. Again, while we're recording this, they haven't quite yet been published, made live, but I do know that they're being worked on quite vigorously, and they will be up at some point. Who knows? Maybe by the time that this is actually up, so at least the first one will be. So it's been crazy, I gotta tell you. Doing all this, we're doing the regular shows at a rate that we had not been in a while. Recently, if we did more than one show a month, that would have been wow.
Yeah,
it had been.
Yeah,
that's how it was.
Past couple of years, we've been in and out of the podcast episodes, but we've been consistent of our Shield ones.
Sure.
And then, yeah, pretty much that. But hopefully, we can keep with the movie ones at the very least. So
that's what we're trying some things out, kids. Okay, it's like we did a. Oh god, we huddled up together sometime during the new year, and we're like, we could try and do a little more, and I'm just happy that we're doing the things that are making us that we're passionate about and that we're interested in, which is why we're doing the Steven Spielberg Files, right? Because ultimately, we just got to find a way to keep ourselves in it, keep feeling like this is something worth going back to. Film, cinema, what it makes us feel, what it makes us want to do in our lives. It plays a big part and has played a big part, which is why we keep talking about it throughout all of this time. And Steven Spielberg, as I mentioned at the first Spielberg Files, is my favorite director for a lot of reasons. It's more than just like, oh, I love all his movies. It's more so to the fact that his sensibilities as a human, um, the things that he's using his films to say, to speak about, are very much a lot of the thoughts that I have in my head. And, through the exploration of, his history, through, his own works, or even the documentaries, it very much feels like he and I shared kinship as far as like some of the interests that we have. For one, I think, he and I both had lonely childhoods. We didn't have many friends, all the way growing up. At that point, we were kind of not outcasts, but just just weird kids. Somehow we both had a fascination for aliens, and that's crazy how that's all kind of like coming full circle in a lot of ways. The new movie that's coming out this year is based on an original idea that he had post 2022 about UFOs, about aliens. He's already had a career. I even forget myself how many alien movies he's made. The first Spielberg Files that we did included one of those, which was Close Encounters of the Third Kind. And in a lot of ways, because I had, again, I don't watch trailers. I don't do trailers. I hate trailers. Toy Story 5, not looking at you. Haven't seen it. Not going to see it. But Disclosure Day, obviously, I will. And it's crazy to me how much of Disclosure Day seemingly has, on the surface, and as far as subject matter is concerned, a lot in common with Close Encounters. And I'm wondering to see what's going to happen with that. All the while, we have another alien movie that we have today, and there will be at least one or two in the future with Spielberg. But I don't think it should be lost on anyone that, at least with this alien thing, and we couldn't have planned this out, but in between the recording of the last Spielberg Files and the recording of this one, former President Obama confirmed that aliens exist. And then like a couple of days later was like, well, actually, I meant to... No one believed it. No one believes that. Obviously, we all know how that game works, but it's like, okay, well, we're living in the year 2026, and I guess we have something of a confirmation, although I do feel like in large part why it doesn't make any news, aside from the existential crisis that the Trump administration unleashes on the American people on a daily basis. Aside from that, it feels like most people just already know. And I think that's maybe why it's just not, I guess that won't be a big story unless they actually land themselves and introduce themselves. And God help us if that ever happens with the, these next couple of years. If I were the aliens, first of all, I wouldn't come down, period. Fuck this. But if you were going to do that, I would wait until a couple of crazies are dead. Just putting it out there. But yeah, it's an interesting time for sure. Anywho, last time we discussed the first 4 films that we considered to be significant markers for his career. The TV film Duel, which ended up being so successful and so noteworthy that people like me consider it in a way a pseudo debut, even though it's far from a debut. He made plenty of TV films before that, and of course the films that he made as a teenager. So it's like, in the canon of Spielberg, you take what you will, right? But the official theatrical debut, Sugarland Express, we discussed, as well as Jaws and Close Encounters. And I mean, what a banger, obviously. I mean, you could even say that they were all bangers, but it's just crazy to think like, wow, so much success so quickly. Yes, Duel was a TV film. Yes, Sugarland Express wasn't really a hit per se. It just kind of like
it just started.
Most people
got his attention.
It was just there. Yeah, it started. It was just there. I'm sure people enjoyed it moderately, but if for whatever reason it didn't have the same splash like Scorsese had with Mean Streets. But I will say Mean Streets was not his first movie. Scorsese had a film before that, which you don't hear people talk about as well as Mean Streets for a reason. First films typically can be kind of rough, to say the least, or maybe not all that noteworthy. But I will say, Sugar Land Express may not have been a hit, but this was a fantastic movie.
Yeah.
You and I really liked it.
Mm-hmm.
And of course, needless to say, Jaws and Close Encounters.
Fantastic. Yeah.
And I think a lot of that sentiment might repeat itself today. So as far as like what we're covering, and I also wanted to keep in mind that you might see behind me a banner of the Spielberg documentary, which was broadcast on HBO, directed by Susan Lacey in 2017. We kind of use that as a marker as well to kind of keep ourselves up to date as far as like where Spielberg is with the world, because you know how we like to do things here. We don't just talk about the movies themselves or what they mean to us or our memories about them or how they, how they live up today, but it's more so how did people feel about the movies and the man at the time, which I think has always been a fascinating story, and one that I think a lot of people would be kind of like, I would say, laughing at themselves for even having that, because, and I guess you could say Christopher Nolan was, in essence, kind of a victim of this too, where it's like kind of out of the gate, Spielberg and Nolan, and this is the model that I'm referring to. They come out of the gate and they have hits that are very easily culturally relevant, except the elites and the powers that be in the industry continue to like resist them kind of being invited in the club. For instance, Nolan won his first Academy Award for directing for Oppenheimer just a few years ago. Now, I will always say there wasn't much about his filmography to me that I would consider to be Academy Award winning as far as directing, except for The Dark Knight, which I do feel that one I would think very easily should have been a winner for director. If Nolan should have won at the time when he was like really reaching his peak, that should have been, well, The Dark Knight in many ways should have won Best Picture.
Mm.
That's just me. And I'm sure a lot of people also feel that way too. But with Steven Spielberg though, one of the things that I just forgot, I didn't even mention it the last time, and well, I guess it didn't come into play just yet, but it is going to come into play today, and this is where I will start, and this is kind of wraps back around to Jaws, and I'm sure you had to have seen that clip, right? That's been out there. So this is the thing. Spielberg, and part of the canon of his career is he has a lot of really big cultural hits out of the gate for the first like 10 years of his career. And then after that, he tries to chase the white whale in a way. He tries to chase that Oscar, to chase the gold. And he makes a couple of films, and some that are very successful as far as like producing nominations. But all of that is in service of him getting that win for director. And he doesn't do it. And it eludes him. And I do not believe he wins director. Now, keep in mind, the films that we've been talking about are from the early 70s to the late 70s. Beginning with this episode, we're in between the late 70s and the very early 80s. So still so far away to go. But his first directing win does not happen until the year 1993. And what is interesting about him is that a lot of the stuff that was being said about him did get to him, which is why he was trying to make quote unquote, and he says it himself in interviews, more serious films. And I feel in a lot of ways it can all be traced back to Jaws. And of course, with Jaws, he thought like, wow, this is it. Fuck it. I'm not going to be able to do this because of all the production issues that were happening. But then by some miracle, it all ended up working out the way that it was always supposed to be. It ended up being an amazing film. 50 years later, we're talking about it. 50 years later, I, a 30-year-old, for the first time in a movie theater, well, not the first time, I've seen it before, but anyway, for the 50th anniversary, I went to go see it with people, and it was like watching one of the best movies ever, only it felt like it didn't come out less than half a day ago. Like, that's how up to date, how relevant it still feels today. And at the time, very much so. I mean, this is the film that created the blockbuster. The whole term blockbuster comes from the fact that people were waiting blocks and blocks and blocks just to get into the theater to watch this movie. Here's the thing, and I don't think the documentary, it's Spielberg, that I'm remembering, even touched on this, and it may be hard to watch, but by the time a year had passed and the Academy Award nominations were about to be handed out, Spielberg literally hired a film crew to film his reaction. You can even say this is like the grandfather of reaction videos, to film his reaction of the award nominations. He was so sure he was going to get a Best Directing nomination. It didn't happen. It didn't happen. And I mean, it sounds to me, David, that you're not aware of this at all.
I feel like I might have seen it before, but it might have been a long time ago. So
okay, we got to do it. This is the Spielberg show, right? We got to do this. This is the thing. So I'm gonna send it over to you right now on Messenger, so you can be able to see it for yourself. I mean, well, we're gonna watch it together, obviously. But I mean, I'm so sorry to tell you, but like, this is we got to do it. We got to do it. Only because this is an essential piece of history that's going to continue to inform us all the way throughout. So just let me know when you're ready to play.
My name is Steve Spielberg, and I just directed a movie called Jaws, and Jaws is about to be nominated in 11 categories. You're about to see us sweep the nominations. We're very confident at this very moment, and so if you all have a seat, we'll get on with it.
This is already
this morning with expectation. They just passed out the material that they have, and I think we got some surprises for you today, and a lot of excitement.
Carol, can everybody in this room have coffee with the exception of myself, who would like a cup of tea?
Hey, who has the envelope? We're ready. Do you have the envelope?
What show is it going to come on?
For the best achievement in direction, Federico Fellini for Amarcord, New World Pictures. Stanley Kubrick for Barry Lyndon, Warner Brothers. Sidney Lumet for Dog Day Afternoon, Warner Brothers. Robert Altman for Nashville, Paramount. And Milos Forman.
Oh, I didn't get it. I didn't get it. I wasn't nominated. I got beaten out by Fellini.
That's first of all,
Fellini.
I can't believe this.
Wait a second. We have the shark was an actress.
For the best picture of the year, Barry Lyndon, Warner Brothers. Stanley Kubrick, producer. Dog Day Afternoon, Warner Brothers. Martin Bregman, Martin Elfman, producer. Jaws.
Well, it's about
I
time.
have something to say about this. I'm a poem.
Ron Altman, producer.
Nashville?
United Arts, Soul of Fame, and Michael Douglas, producer. Well, there you have it, Regis. Interesting.
I have something to say. I have a lot to say. First of all, being in
These are my spokesmen.
First of all, being the first Godfather, I have this to say. The Godfather was nominated for the Best Picture and won, but the director, Bob Fosse of Cabaret, won. That's bullshit. You cannot have the Best Picture unless the director is also nominated. Who made the picture? Somebody's mother? Director. This man made yours.
I agree.
Are you kidding? Who's kidding who around here?
This is a dark day in Hollywood.
Absolutely.
Sun is shining. This is a very
This is a dark day for our pal.
The greatest picture of all time was made, and they haven't recognized the
director. Who made it? The shark? It's a matter of logic. Who made the Best Picture?
All right. Enough.
That's it.
I'm suffering enough.
All right, we're suffering
more,
with
I'm
you.
suffering.
We're suffering.
Cancel my
Those are some
day.
good
Right,
friends,
we're getting
honestly.
drunk.
Cancel
Oh my
my
God.
week.
Let's go to this
I-
weekend.
I'm going to Palm
I love the
Springs.
fact that he just let him
Right.
go off, and like I'm sure he's feeling the same thing. he's thinking the same thing as them,
Only for what?
but you know he's handling it well.
Best score and sound, and that's it.
That's it?
We named
Best
every-
screenplay?
Nothing. Not even special effects.
Not even special effects? This is called commercial backlash. I
Wow.
don't know if anybody knows the word commercial backlash, but when a film makes a lot of money, people resent it. Everybody loves a winner, but nobody loves a winner.
Okay. There is so much there.
Still relevant,
That-
honestly, today. Like everything that they were saying, it's so funny. Oh my gosh! And I like what they say. It's like why would you pick it for best picture? Why would you pick something for best picture but not for best director? Like you do realize someone made that, right?
I mean, that basically is Dune, right? Like both times, both Dunes were nominated for Best Picture. Neither time was the director Denis Villeneuve nominated for that. And like Josh Brolin legit said the same thing. What, the movie just direct itself? Only with Dune, it received, I want to say, 10 nominations. I believe if I not heard, like it got like 5 there, I think there, which is crazy. That right there tells you that. And this is not a secret because we cover it, and anyone who follows the Academy knows this. There is definitely a long history of them being just being petty bitches. And when they don't like you, or when they think that you're too successful, or that they're like you're too popular, or if like they're too cool for you, you better believe they're gonna bite back. I mean, look, if you're gonna compare it just to the nominations that came out just for this year, I'm sorry. I thought you were telling me because you were communicating to me, Academy, because what happened? About a month and a half before the nominations happened, they have the long lists, right? The long lists. They reveal who are the ones who are the final, let's say, 20 that are being considered. Did you know that Wicked for Good got like 8 to 10 mentions in those long lists? Which would indicate to you that it was going to get a lot of nominations. Only for then the narrative to completely change, and it ended up being a stinker to the point that when the nominations came out, it got zero. As it should, quite frankly. I'm not upset about that. But that's just an example of how their whole idea of you can change drastically. Eddie Murphy would be an Academy Award winner today for his performance in Dreamgirls, if it not for the fact that Norbit came out in theaters and it got destroyed by critics, and the Academy was like, well, I'm not going to vote for the guy that was in Norbit. And by the way, that's absurd, because why should one movie affect the other performance? It doesn't negate a great performance, because let's just say, and Norbit, I've got to tell you, I never thought the film was terrible. I mean, the thing that it's going for is very much like very easy humor, very easy laughs, but I'm like, I don't know. I find a lot more objectionable crap today, to tell you the truth, because of the lack of integrity produced by it. Look no further than Disney. So there's that. But I would just say, like, the Academy, in my eyes, you need to just like treat them with a very, very like big grain of salt, because a lot of people just assume that they legitimately are trying to award the best. That's never, ever the case. If it ever happens that way, it's because of some stroke of sheer political convenience that it ended up being the case. That's just how it is. So clearly, Spielberg there got a taste of what they're really like. And I mean, that felt like me. When mine gets like robbed of or snubbed of like obviously deserved nominations. I mean, just beat for beat. So, but I mean, that is also just so cringe too. It's like, oh my God, he really thought he was gonna get it, and then they don't nominate him, and you're just like, you see the instant regret on his face. Also, just on a side note, it's interesting how young he looks there, but he has the exact same face.
Yeah.
It's like the same face.
Like,
but it's just,
you know, obviously the hair is getting gray and all that, but like there's still this youth to him even now.
Technically, that's a 50-year-old clip.
Yeah. Like
we just watched. That was him 50 years ago.
It's crazy.
It's insane. I think he's going to be 80 years old this year.
Jesus.
Yeah, that's old. Like that's pretty old. I'm getting scared. Anywho, I wanted to begin there because something he said at the end there about like, let me just for my ears, what did he say there? Commercial backlash. Okay, which obviously that's what happened. Look, I'm gonna tell you. I certainly at the time, we had look in the years since then. I understand perhaps it was a bit too bullish of me, but I really did think like, look, as far as Marvel is concerned, I did feel at the time that Infinity War and Endgame were huge spectacle movies, and they were such well-made movies too.
Mm-hmm.
And I did feel like there was a craft to them. And by the way, how often do I get to actually say out loud there was craft used in the making of Marvel movies? But you definitely saw it on display there in a variety of different, areas. Visual effects for one. I thought, look, Marvel has shit the bed since then. But if you look at Infinity War and Endgame, and when you compare it to the fact that it was all just a blue screen, those are very, very good effects. Now, obviously, they're not all great all the time. People have their issues with the way that the third act looks, or the third battle sequence looks all sludgy and gray. And obviously, that's been used in most movies. That it's just maybe not as great as it used to be. But those films were cultural events. And I do recognize, I do feel there is a place for that. In some ways, I do feel like some groups are going out of their way to do that. Like, like we've said for years now, people dog on the Globes for having the Box Office Achievement Award, which it really isn't, because they never really give it to the film that makes the most money. They give it to the film that captures the pop culture zeitgeist, which they should just rename the award to the Pop Culture Award or the Zeitgeist Award. And the 3 films that they gave it to are films that no one else is going to give the Best Picture prize to, which was Barbie, Wicked, and Sinners. Which, in the individual years that those films came out, yes, they captured the zeitgeist. They had cultural relevancy. They made an impact on the world because of their release. But so often those movies don't get treated the same as Oppenheimer, as One Battle After Another. And while those other films are great and they deserve to win, they sometimes are a little bit crappier than that and don't even nominate some of the talent involved. Like, I'm sorry, I thought Greta Gerwig definitely deserved a director nomination. How the fuck did she do that? Seriously, how the fuck do you do that to a Barbie movie? And be the most successful movie in the history of that studio that just now, by the way, ended up getting absorbed by the freaking MAGA cult. I'm sorry. I need to control my tangents today. Sorry, David. Anywho, I did share with you, I want to say, an interview, correct? That I wanted you to watch. Did you watch the interview?
Yeah, what was it, 60 Minutes, that one? Or...
Yes.
Yeah.
So, what did you make of that interview? Now, if I'm not mistaken, share your thoughts while I look up, because I don't even recall myself, like what year that interview was recorded. But go ahead and tell me what you were thinking of the questions and also how he responded to those questions.
Honestly, I can't remember much from the interview. I think that was the one where I think the one to stand out was I think they told him like if he was like a childish person or something like that, or he was like childlike. I kind of brought it up briefly, when we mentioned how it kind of looks the same now
yes,
versus in that video, but like there's still youth to him, and he responds saying like it's like, what do you mean by childish? Like, am I irresponsible? Like, I don't I just don't really agree to that much. Like, there are things from my childhood that I like to bring up within my movies that I really want to make. Okay, I remember now too. He brought up how he has like so many stories to tell, but he can't keep it up at all. And I think that's kind of how he ended up not giving away, but like, having someone else direct Poltergeist. He became a producer because for it. And so, yeah, those are the standout ones for me. But yeah, I like what he said though. That like, I'm still a responsible adult, like taking care of myself, but I just, a lot of things from my childhood I like to bring up into my movies. So yeah, that was pretty interesting.
So, I think I found part of the clip that I wanted. I'm gonna send it to you again because I know it has been. So this was from the year 1982.
People like yourself and the new movie makers, people like George Lucas, Francis Coppola, are certainly very different kind of people from the old movie makers. Do you feel that you are that different?
Yeah, I think we're motivated by work and by the films we make, less about what the films can earn for us and how we can spend our leisure time.
So how is Hollywood handling people like yourself?
Well, they kind of reject people like me and Francis and George. We're sort of we're not really part of the Hollywood party circuit, as it were. I don't get invited to any parties. I haven't been invited to a Hollywood party in about 5 years.
Would you go if you were invited?
Well, if I knew the people well and they were friends of mine, I'd like to see what a Hollywood party is like. I mean, I'm not on the A list here. I'm on like the D list. Because I don't really think that I'm considered part of the old Hollywood fabric. I'm this weird kid that makes movies, and George is this weird kid who lives in Northern California who's rejected Hollywood by moving 400 miles away. And Francis is just weird.
I mean, what's interesting about that is, like, that's still kind of happening now, where it's just slowly more and more people who are just so away from the Hollywood zeitgeist of it keep popping up. And I mean, what was it? What's that one movie that just came out from the YouTuber Bone something or what the Markiplier? Him. And I didn't see the whole thing, but he made a video, of how it went in the box office and all that. And he brought up briefly how like he talked to some people, working within studios. I don't know if he asked them if he should like reach out to certain studios or something like that, but they were all kind of telling him like, don't do it. Just like stay away from them. Figure out a way to bring this out on your own. And it's just like slowly, just more people are basically going away from the big studios, which is not because, we're able to do that now because of YouTube and social media. It's just a big part of it is because them as studio heads just ripping away at, I mean, I hate saying this, but like the power that these big studios had. And so it's just kind of interesting that like, Spielberg is sort of the first to sort of come up in a way that's just not sort of normal within the Hollywood zeitgeist. And it's just keeps happening more and more. I don't know if it was, you can say maybe it's, a bit of inspiration from him and people like George Lucas and, what do they say, Coppola?
Yes.
But, it's just interesting that it's still happening even now.
For sure. I mean, that's just interesting to just take a note of how it's changed a lot, but it's also in a way stayed the same, that aspect. But like clearly this was what I thought was striking is that this was recorded in 1982. This is the year E.T. came out, and like this guy is still not considered like mainstream of like Hollywood, because I guess at that point old Hollywood hadn't died off just yet. But now, like if you think about Spielberg today, he's the guy.
Yeah.
Like if he's everywhere. I believe like he just broke the record, as a matter of fact, this year for having being the most nominated producer for Best Picture movies. Because he's been a producer not just for his own films, which I think are like 11 or 12. I'm not sure how many of his own movies, but it's been a lot. But then he's also been producers on other films. This year it was for Hamnet. So yeah, and then I cannot believe we didn't mention it, or maybe this was news that there's just so much happening this year. It's just kind of like serendipitous that we're doing this now, but the Grammys happened and he won a Grammy because he produced the John Williams documentary. and now he's officially an EGOT member.
Mhm.
I'm like, what? That's pretty big stuff there. It's been a long time since like anyone's been declared an EGOT member. It's a shame that it wasn't like put on the live telecast and they didn't invite Spielberg. That way we could have actually seen a live television event of somebody becoming an EGOT, which is a huge deal. So think about like today, like he's literally on top of the world, like still having newfound success. But little did you know, there was a moment in time in the era that we're going to cover today where it almost completely came crashing down. And I realize that we're about half an hour into this show and I have not even bothered to share with people who are watching what we're even talking about today. God help us. All right, the films we're talking about today are 1941 from the year 1979. I barely know anything about this movie. I had to look up the date. We're also discussing the film Raiders of the Lost Ark from the year 1980, and then two films from 1982, of which they both came out in theaters almost at the exact same time, like the same month, practically a week separated from each other. E.T. the Extraterrestrial, and then, of course, the film that he not only produced but wrote, and some would even say ghost directed, Poltergeist. So those are the films that we're going to be discussing today. And I got to say, just from like, where do you even start? Because like three of those...
Yeah, are kind
Three of those, they're like the movies of movies. It's like, what are you going to say more about them? It's like they're huge successes and they're incredible, and we're going to be discussing them, obviously. But one of the things that we have to also keep in mind is, well, that first film kind of nearly prevented the rest from happening. And that would be the movie 1941. Now, this is a film that is so unavailable to see, and that should just tell you about its reputation. The inception of this movie is kind of crazy. The execution's even crazier. I watched this for the first time ever, I want to say a few weeks ago, and
it's a rough watch.
did you see some clips from this? Or
oh no, I saw the whole thing.
1941?
I saw the whole thing. You only saw clips,
Okay.
or
No, I saw the whole thing too.
okay. Yeah, I saw the whole thing about 2 days ago, 3 days ago.
Okay.
I
wasn't sure you were going to do it.
No, yeah.
I really wasn't sure you were going to actually do it. Okay.
No, yeah, I
Go
was
ahead.
definitely like, not really in the mood to watch it because of the concept. Oh shit! I'll show my phone. Concept of it, but I was like, I should do it for this video and all that. And I mean, it wasn't as bad as I thought it was gonna be. I really thought it was gonna be like bored out of my mind and just be like, the fuck were you doing with this? But to give it some compliments, the only character I like was that pilot. He was the only one that like just seemed perfect for this movie. Fit the scene. And just I didn't get laughs, but like I got a few chuckles out of him. He was probably the best one. Everything else, there were just some things that just don't hold up. That one dude who was going after the girl did not sit right with me. And then just everyone else. Overall, if I had to pinpoint like the problem with the movie, I mean, it was just a bad story, but like there were just way too many characters in this. It should have just stuck with the pilot and maybe two other characters, but they were together, and then focus on that. But yeah, there were just way too many characters within this movie.
Wow.
The concept of it was just didn't sit well. I was really trying to keep an open mind about it too, but I'm just kind of like, I just don't really care for it. It's just weird. Yeah.
I think what became apparent is why it was a swing and a miss.
Mhm.
It was a complete miss, and it was. I mean, to tell you the truth, I just feel like for the most part, there's almost like nothing redeeming about this movie.
Mm-hmm.
Like, it is a very rough watch, and it is just. If you're not in the mood for this, and I could hardly imagine anyone would be, this would kind of be grating. It did get to a point where I was like half watching it and half not watching it,
Same.
but just still kind of like couldn't look away all the way just because like, what the hell is happening here?
Mm-hmm.
Like, on paper, I could see how a lot of this could be like funny gags. Like, if you were like, maybe if there were SNL skits, maybe they could be funny, but when you put it all into a movie, the more it kept going, the less appealing it was.
Yeah, I was really thinking like Three Stooges type of comedy going on with this movie, and if it was that, maybe I could have gotten more behind it. But
I think it was going for that.
It was.
I don't think it got there. That's the thing.
It was trying with the pilot character for sure. That's why he's my favorite one in the movie. But everyone else, it's not that they were playing it seriously, but like they had like, I guess you could say, serious roles within the movie, and it just didn't work so well with me.
There's a section in the middle where it kind of becomes a musical.
Yeah,
like,
the dancing.
It's like an extended dance sequence, and I'm like, there were points where I'm like, was he even sure what movie he wanted to make with this? Like, it felt, I gotta tell you, a little all over the place with this movie. And what did I see here? Okay, people might be like, okay, well, what even is this movie? Which is fair, because like,
I don't think we even talked about the story yet.
Well, no. So this is a 1979 American war comedy film, and this is the other thing that also is like incredible. Not only is this one of like the worst reviewed movies ever, one of the biggest bombs ever by one of the biggest, if not the biggest director ever. Do you know who wrote this? This is written by Robert Zemeckis and Bob Gale, the people who are behind the Back to the Future trilogy.
See, now the comedy makes sense a bit, because same comedy bits within both of those movies, at least same style of it. But again, had they just leaned a bit more of like a Three Stooges style, you probably could have had something here. But yeah.
Co-writer Gale stated that the plot is loosely based on what has come to be known as the Great Los Angeles Air Raid of 1942. There was an air raid? Jesus Christ, I didn't know anything about it. Well, I mean, I wasn't alive, so fuck am I. As well as the bombardment of the Elwood Oil Refinery near Santa Barbara by a Japanese submarine. So, okay, let's just go to the reception of all of this, because obviously that's what we're here to discuss, right? So Gene Siskel of the Chicago Tribune, one of the most renowned critics ever, gave the film 2.5 out of 4 stars and applauded the film's visual effects, but stated, there is so much flab here, including endless fistfights and huge dance production numbers that become meaningless after a few minutes. In his review for the New York Times, Vincent Canby wrote, there are too many characters who aren't immediately comic. There are too many simultaneous actions that necessitate a lot of cross-cutting, and cross-cutting between unrelated anecdotes can kill a laugh faster than a yawn. Everything is too big. The slapstick gags, obviously choreographed with extreme care, but not billed to boffs. They simply go on too long. I'm not sure if it's the fault of the director or the editor, but I've seldom seen a comedy more ineptly timed. Similarly, Variety labeled the movie a long-on spectacle but short-on comedy, further stating that 1941 suffers from Spielberg's infatuation with physical comedy, even when the gags involve tanks, planes, and submarines, rather than the usual stuff of screen hijinks. The pick is so overstuffed with visual humor of a rather monstrous nature that feeling emerges. Once you've seen 10 explosions, you've seen them all. Roger Ebert gave it 1.5 stars out of 4, writing that the film feels forced together chaotically, as if the editors wanted to keep the material moving at any cost. The movie finally reduces itself to an assault on our eyes and ears, a non-stop series of climaxes, screams, explosions, double takes, sight gags, and ethnic jokes. That's finally just not very fun.
That was...
I'm sorry, these reviews were a lot funnier than the movie itself. I'm just gonna put it out right there.
I mean, it's just too chaotic of a movie. And the jokes didn't work. Craziest joke that they had was it was towards the end, and this black guy had like, I don't know, some kind of white dirt on his face, and there was the white dude was laughing at him, and then the white dude noticed that he had like, some sort of black makeup around him, whether it was from smoke or just basically like the whole bunch of explosions happening. And the black dude goes, hey, makes fun of him, tells him to go in the back. I was like, holy shit, that was a joke. Okay.
I don't even know if I caught that. Holy fuck.
Dude, it was a whole sequence, yeah. And so I
kind of blocked it out, David. It's like it came in one ear out the other, that movie.
That was just from later on. The early ones beginning, just chaotic characters from the beginning. Like I said, the pilot guy was the only funny one in the movie just because he was the craziest out of all of them. He goes into his restaurant, hears on the radio that some guy said like, he was talking shit about soldiers or something like that, and the pilot just goes, "What the fuck did he say?" And he shoots the radio and all that. Like, he takes his job very seriously, basically. And he's like that throughout the entire movie, and that's just the only thing that worked about him. And then the worst.
Would you believe that this movie got 3 Academy Award nominations?
Oh fuck no! What?
No.
Were there no other movies?
I don't know. I mean, I don't know about the year 1979, but it didn't win, obviously, a single one. But it did get nominated for Best Cinematography, Best Sound, and Visual Effects.
I guess sound. I don't know, but yeah. And then the worst character was this dude who just straight up almost raped a girl.
Right? Like, that was bugging me too.
Mm-hmm.
I was like, why the fuck are we spending so much of our time with this, first of all, very tasteless competition? I get it was the 40s, whatever, but like, it just was in very poor taste to me. And then this guy was basically a fucking rapist.
Yeah,
like,
he
right?
was.
And then, like, wasn't this girl like a high school girl?
They were pretty young, for sure. I don't know if they were teenagers or not. But
the whole thing was like really bothering me.
Mm-hmm. No, yeah, he just really wanted to get up with this girl. She was clearly interested in someone else. They were trying to fight over her, but yeah, I just never got behind.
Which, like, hold on, time out. The same thing in a way also happens. And I guess, look, this is less of a Spielberg thing and more of like, well, it's the times, right?
Mm-hmm.
I guess, guys hitting on underage girls, I guess, was a thing. So one thing that stood out to me when I was rewatching Poltergeist, early on in the movie, the daughter, right? Did you catch that too? I'm like...
Yeah, the daughter, basically, she's leaving the house, going to school, and the dudes who were going to build the pool for this family start hitting on her and literally being like, "I love you, baby," or something like that. And yeah, they're not... Sadly, we just have to say, like, it was the times. Like, that's just all it is. And, it was bad.
It was gross.
I
was like, ooh, that really didn't age well. And after the Epstein, files come out, like that, even worse. So it's like, Jesus Christ. So it really is that so many people that are just like that.
Mm-hmm.
Because, I mean, the context just changes completely. It's like you have... Fuck, these middle-aged guys, they're hired to work, to open up a pool, right? And they're fucking hitting on an underage teenager. And then, and this is so of the times, yeah, okay, the girl gets to flip them off. But in the background, the mom looks at that and she's like, "Oh, that's funny."
Yeah, I almost wanted to see it as like, okay, I guess she's happy that the girl is like not, going along with it. But either way, though, she should have just been like, looking
Get
at
the fuck out of here.
Yeah, looking at the dudes being like, "You better fucking move your eyes away, motherfuckers," or something like that. But that didn't even happen. Yeah.
The things that you see in these movies sometimes. Anyway, here's some other information. According to Jack Nicholson, director Stanley Kubrick allegedly told Spielberg that 1941 was great, but not funny. Spielberg joked at one point that he considered converting 1941 into a musical halfway into production and mused that, in retrospect, that might have helped.
Probably.
In a 1990 interview with the British film pundit Barry Norman, Spielberg admitted the mixed reception to 1941 was one of the biggest lessons of his career, citing personal arrogance that had gotten in the way after the runaway successes of Jaws and Close Encounters. He also regretted not ceding control of 1941's action and miniature sequences to second unit directors and model units, something which he would do in his next film, Raiders of the Lost Ark. He also said, "Some people think that was an out-of-control production, but it wasn't. What happened on the screen was pretty much out of control, but the production was pretty much in control. I don't dislike the movie at all. I'm not embarrassed by it. I just think that it wasn't funny enough." Yeah. This is a weird one, and this is like, again, I feel like even the most successful people make duds, right? It's like, even, I mean, look, I don't want to compare this to, like, this is not the same, but, like, I mean, every legend or every giant, like, they obviously have a career of successes, but every now and then they make something that is just not that creatively loved.
Mm-hmm.
Like, if you love Taylor Swift, and if you like, you know what? I'm not going to go there.
Okay.
I'm not going to go there. That's going to get me in trouble. Let's not do that. Anywho, that was 1941. Well, David, I appreciate the commitment to the show to put yourself through that. I found myself just like wondering what in the world is going on here. Yeah.
Yeah.
But it's a good thing, though. The next movie is much better.
Yeah.
Even though, of course, it's not one of your favorites, obviously, but it is a favorite of a lot of people.
Mm-hmm.
It's funny how this next movie, so this is for 1980, Raiders of the Lost Ark, which is the very first movie in the Indiana Jones movie. Just a little bit of like trivia here for our longtime listeners and watchers, of which they don't exist, but I like to pretend that we have people who have been watching or listening to us at all, but for a long period of time. So, which is funny because recently we had a comment on like, how did these fucking jokers, what he was trying to say actually, make it to 500 episodes? Well, bitch, you have no idea. We have even more than that because we had a show that we did before this one that we did for like years and years. And in one of the final videos, because it was not really a podcast, it was much more like a YouTube channel. Like this was the era 2013 to 2016. So think of YouTube at that point more closely aligned to that than what it would be now. But one of the final videos that we did were what were our favorite movies, right? And Peter, him being the interesting person he always wants to be unique, he chose to separate the 5 slots he was given by genre. And in the genre of blockbuster, which he considers to be one of his favorite like genres of movies, he put this one, Raiders of the Lost Ark. Mostly because of how it was directed. And I do feel from the standpoint of direction, it very easily is one of the best blockbusters, because this is just, and keep in mind, we just watched what this guy did with 1941, but it's interesting. We go from Jaws, Close Encounters. And then you wouldn't even know there was this blemish in the middle of it. But then you skip that and you go over to Raiders and it's like, oh, okay.
Yeah, he's
all right.
back.
Yeah. It's interesting. But, with the whole 1941 movie, with it being like such at a low point, comes along George Lucas and it's like, hey, what do you want to do? And Spielberg's like, I think I might want to do like a James Bond movie. And like, Lucas is like, I've got something way better than that. But if you do this, you got to shake my hand now. It's like, you got to make 3 of these. And he delivered. He delivered on that. These movies are so beloved. They're so well liked. I love them myself for, I think, my own reasons. I mean, they're just fun movies to watch. They're basically just filled with like fun set pieces, which are very good. But I do feel though, like in comparison to something else, like maybe Star Wars, Pirates of the Caribbean, even Lord of the Rings, those, if Harry Potter, those franchises, I think, have a lot more. They're anchored by more character.
Mm-hmm.
The Indiana Jones films have character, but they're not really the main event here. It's sprinkled in there, but the main reason why you're watching these movies is because, well, they're the ultimate B movie. They're meant to capture that feeling, and they're just fun movies to watch. And that's what they are. And I do feel like that is mostly why this one. I mean, I don't know how you feel, David. I don't know personally. It seems like you don't care for any of them, but of the, well, I was gonna say 4, then I remember there's more than 4.
Mm.
Well, 4 that Spielberg directed. I would say it's between. I gotta tell you, in the last few years, I feel like the one that I prefer keeps changing, which should tell you how I do like these movies. I like watching them. I don't know. I would say this is probably the best well-made movie. I did watch Last Crusade in theaters for the first time last year, and I was like, well, shit. I don't know. It keeps changing back and forth. Anyway, here's a taste of how people are talking about this movie, even just today. Here, people forget how funny this movie is. So many great visual gags, straight up goofy bits, and charismatic one-liners from back before there were ever an industrial complex. I feel like this was such an interesting period of filmmaking where guys like Spielberg and Lucas were taking the simplistic serial heroes and pulpy iconography of their childhood and asking themselves, yo, but what if this is actually good? They were making love letters to the films of their youth, but they also somehow managed to deepen and spark their own iconographies in the process. In a weird way, filmmakers crafting love letters to their childhoods has kind of become the standard practice of the movie machine these days, but I don't think anyone has ever captured the perfect lightning in a bottle blend of fresh and pastiche that these films achieved in their time. Maybe it was the fact that these were born out of love of the medium, not love of the franchise, but I don't know. Indy's delivery of okay, moving on beyond that. That's actually a good way of summing up that particular thing. Yeah. Obviously, Harrison Ford's great. I mean, that should go without say. Obviously, the camera's fucking great.
Mm-hmm.
I think to me, like one of my favorite things about watching this movie, obviously, is how Spielberg holds the camera, and John Williams. David.
Yeah, you mentioned it. Not the biggest fan of this franchise. I don't know. I really don't know what it is about it, because I saw it when I was a kid. I was staying at my uncle's house. I can't remember what my parents were doing. They're probably some vacation or something. And my dad rented some movies for me to, keep me distracted. And I got all 3 Indiana Jones movies, and I watched them all. I think I went out of order. I think I went backwards, actually.
That's funny.
Yeah. And, I thought they were just fine when I first saw it, but then on rewatch, I just can't get into them. I don't know. You mentioned, the cinematography and all those are great. Whenever they're putting out the info of like certain, basically like the plot of like what they're gonna do and all that, like those are all interesting. Harrison Ford is funny, but like, if I compare this character to that of Han Solo, like I just find Han Solo more interesting and funnier. Like the standout line was he was in that snake pit and the villain sees him from the top, and he just says, it's a regular line that you've seen in tons of other movies, but he kind of goes like, oh, why don't you come down here with me or something like that. But like the way he says it, I understand why people like find him interesting. Is because he's not overplaying that line. He's not going like, oh
Right.
yeah, well, why don't you come down here, find out for yourself or something like that. Like other actors would have overplayed it, but he said it such a regular way that you almost wouldn't have guessed that he was making fun of you or trying to say some kind of joke. And like that's interesting, but I don't know, just something about it doesn't interest me enough to like this character, like the franchise. The actions are fun. I mean, that's really a person. I don't know if it's actually Harrison Ford or some stunt double, but like it's an actual person doing all those things, and I really do miss that in movies. They don't make them like they used to.
No,
type
they
of
don't.
thing. And so those are fun, but yeah, when I was rewatching this one, I'm for sure not gonna rewatch Temple of Doom. That's the one I cannot. That's for sure. I'm telling you that now. I cannot rewatch that one for sure. When I did a couple years ago, I was just like, "Fuck, this is rough." But this one, yeah, I just from the beginning I couldn't get that much into it. Not really liking much of the characters. It's just not for me. I'm sorry to the fans.
Yeah, I'm getting the picture. It's just not for you, which is A-okay. Now if this were E.T., I would have killed you on the spot, but since it's not that, I do feel like no, it's totally fair, but I also do think it's totally understandable. Like I don't think everyone's gonna always agree the same way about, classic movies or older movies or any movies really, about like when they're so successful and they're so popular. So, and then what you were saying, I think makes a lot of sense in that, well, look, sometimes movies connect, sometimes they don't. Sometimes they hit, sometimes they don't. And sometimes you're left wondering, like, I mean, I don't know what to say here really, other than I just didn't feel it. And that's totally fair. That's totally fair. I'll say that it took me a few years to get into them. I do kind of relate to you. It's like, hey, they can be kind of like, because if you're not already interested in all that stuff, but yeah, maybe one day, one day. But I guess it's you keep coming back and they keep hitting you in the face, and it's just not ended up working out all that well. But of course, I mean, needless to say, this first film, such a huge hit in its own right, that it became, it started off a whole new franchise. By the way, I don't know why the fuck there's like airplanes flying back and forth. Fucking 10:16 p.m. at night. I'm so sorry if the mic picks it up here. I have my window open because it's fucking February, and for whatever reason, God decided that it should be 97 degrees in the valley in February where I live at. And fuck you, David, for living in San Diego, where of course it's much nicer. Although I guess
today
not
actually
too nice, because you always have
pretty hot.
It's hot over there.
Yeah,
it's
been getting hot the last couple of days, and it's getting hotter inside my apartment, which is crazy because 3 days ago my sister and I were freezing within our apartment.
Are you really?
Yeah, but then now I'm just like, oh shoot, I gotta bring out the fans now and start plugging them back in. So yeah, I get you.
Yeah, it's a lot happening as far as the box office. Let's see here. obviously was, I mean, what? It was a big hit. You know that it is. Raiders of the Lost Ark was released to general critical acclaim. The National Board of Review and critic Vincent Canby listed it as one of the 10 best films of the year. Canby labeled the film an instant classic and one of the most humorous and stylish American films ever made. He described it as having refined the old serial films into their most perfect form for a modern audience. Roger Ebert called it a series of breathless and incredible adventures inspired by celebrating childhood stories told in comic books and movies. He concluded the film was successful in its singular goal of entertaining, creating an adventure epic in the vein of Star Wars, the James Bond films, and Superman. Writing for The Hollywood Reporter, Arthur Knight said, "A constant stream of thrills kept the film moving at a steady pace." Stephen Klein called the film exhilarating escapist entertainment. And that's basically what it is.
Mm-hmm.
It also just happens to be, it's like, this one, I mean, it's just very easily, and I don't know if it's a bad thing or a good thing. I mean, you be the judge of that, but like, there isn't just much, there's not much to say with this one, is there?
With Raiders? Nah, not really.
No.
I mean, at least not, not much more you can say, like, unlike other people have already said before. There's nothing much more to add to it. But yeah, I mean, it's just a straight story, Guy goes on an adventure to find some historical piece. Bad guys, in a way. I feel like I'm explaining it like it's a generic or something, but yeah, it's just not, there's not much more for us to say that hasn't already been said before.
So this next one, this one's pretty massive.
Mm-hmm.
The year is 1982. At this point, Spielberg has directed Jaws, Close Encounters, and Raiders. All huge successes. And 50 or so years later, these three films to themselves are legends altogether. They make up a huge giant in the industry. And he was about to top himself yet again. Yet again. In a very surprising manner on paper. Spielberg says that while he was making the film, he really at first set out to make a small movie about divorce or something like that. And then it kind of morphed into what E.T. was. But even as it ended up, being fleshed out into its final form, he still was like, this is not like the other films that I've made. And at one point, he even called it like a Disney movie, or compared it to a Disney movie. And when he says Disney movie, he means it like in the good old fashioned way, not in like the dumpster fire garbage way. Because at the time, in the 1980s were a brutal decade for Disney movies and Disney animation. It was just non-existent. So for you to compare yourself to that is not great. But, and by the way, of all the other films that we talked about, it definitely doesn't have the most spectacle in the way that you would think, but in and of itself, the whole piece is a spectacle. And it ended up being the most successful movie ever made up to that point. Talking about E.T. the Extraterrestrial. It's funny how people have absorbed this movie, have lived with this movie for all of these years. It is 44 years, 43 years. Came out in 1982, so in 2022 it had its 40th anniversary. Peter and I went to go see it in the IMAX theater and had an amazing time watching it. I think it was my first time ever watching it in a theater. And I got to tell you, it is hard for me to talk about a movie like this one because by all accounts, this very well may be the favorite movie of mine personally. Out of all the films that we talked about through all the years, this is the one that keeps coming back. I've watched it so many times, and when I go back and rewatch it, I stop what I'm doing, and I'm like transfixed by what's going on. It is, for me, such a personal film. It's such a classic film too. I mean, it is very much tied into the fact that I was brought up on this movie as well. Like, I was a kid, and when I first watched this film, and I have such deep memories of it. But there also is an element of it that I feel is speaking to a specific kind of loneliness that very few films touch. I think, aside from the whole alien thing, the Pixar film Elio has a lot as far as like a kindred spirit relationship connected to this movie as well. In that it's speaking to, I think, the exact same kind of loneliness as well. But it's such a grand film. It's just such a classic movie. When you think of movies, I would like to think that people think of this one because of the emotion that it makes you feel off the bat, but definitely throughout the whole movie. And yes, the ending is like the best ever, but the ending wouldn't work if the film beforehand hadn't done the heavy lifting. To me, it is one of the most beautiful pieces of work I will ever see. I think it speaks to a certain sense of humanity in us. And for me, I think it clicked together why it always appealed to me and why it continues to appeal to people. If you watch the footage from the documentary Spielberg, you have Peter Coyote, who plays Keys in this movie. And he kind of gives his answer for why he believes that what was it about that movie that touched people, that connected with people. And his answer to this very day still kind of stays with me when he says, there are no two people on earth that are as far apart as Elliot and E.T. And him basically saying that if those two, alongside Gertie and Michael, were able to form a relationship with this creature that comes from another planet, then so could any two humans on Earth. Which is kind of like, for me anyway, what I like to think I've always been about. And that is, to be a human being, to be a humanist, is to be able to get over the differences that you have with people, celebrate those differences even, and form a relationship with people, not out of hate, but out of love. And so much of our history as a species has been about hatred, has been about prejudice, has been about intolerance. And I think there is a desire, at least there was at one point in people, that could be our future too, if we really wanted it to be. That the humans in us, and all of us, could be able to strive to that. And here we have this little boy and this alien showing us what the rest of civilization is unwilling to do. There was a clip I wanted to pull up that I didn't share with you that I need some time to work through. So, David, I'm going to turn it over to you about what you feel about this movie.
Yeah.
Do tread carefully because you do have a sniper outside your window. So just be careful
no,
about
I
what
love
you're
this
going to
movie.
say.
Okay, so
Okay,
let's start
just
off
to
with that. But I love it for, I think, very different reasons from you. Obviously, the story is amazing. You know, it's literally a classic of a boy becoming friends with something out of this world, something completely different, and forming a great bond. And classic. But when I would watch this, as a kid, something, even from first watch, there was something about it that just felt nostalgic. And like,
Yes.
The standout moment is right at the beginning when the older brother is hanging out with his friends. First of all, never really knew what they were doing in that table when I first saw it. I mean, again, I was a child, not pay attention much to movies, but the atmosphere about it, like, it's not super loud. They're just having a normal conversation, but it's the sound design of it is always what caught my attention, because like the atmosphere about it very much reminds me of like those late night talks of when I would be around my aunts on my mom's side of the family. Like, there was just every single time, we'd all just stay in the dining room and I would just hear them talk. I cannot tell you what they were talking about, but like, there was something about the atmosphere where like everything felt quiet and I would just hear them talk. And every once in a while, there'd be some laughs, maybe even some anger and all that. It's a fucking motorcycle. But like, just something about that moment, just very much reminded me of, my family. And that's already like the thing that connected me to this family. What they were dealing with was unrelated to me. Never really dealt with it before, and so that's not something that really popped into my head when I was watching it as a kid. Rewatching it for this video, I'm like, oh well, yeah, there was things about the family that just never really.
That's
noticed
obviously like what it means, what it represents to me now.
Mm-hmm.
But I do recall that as a kid. You have any idea how badly I really related to Elliot?
Mm-hmm.
In a lot of ways, like feeling misunderstood by his family, being misunderstood by his friends, not really. I mean, I didn't relate to Elliot like from a broken home, but I definitely related to the loneliness aspect of it and the desire of like wanting to have someone so desperately to connect with. That was such an impactful movie for me. And I do believe that it's one of my very earliest memories of having a film that actually brought me to tears. It was a very emotional movie, especially at the end. Go ahead.
Yeah. And then, everything else that happens afterwards. It was just always fun. Elliot and E.T. bonding. But then the big standout was when E.T. gets drunk. I don't know. I really can't explain to you what it is about it, but that moment where he gets drunk and he's sort of mind controlling Elliot and the things that he does in that school, it's just, I've always enjoyed it. It was always so funny to me. And I've always loved that moment where E.T.'s watching the television and he sees that like romance scene happening, and it actually happens with Elliot. I was just like, I don't know. I think what caught my attention was the filmmaking of it, where it's like, you can do that. Like, you can just, how the heck did you even like make that possible? Like, it always, I guess opened up my imagination of like what you can have fun with film and all that. So I don't know. It's hard. I really can't. It's hard to explain why I love that scene, but yeah. And then obviously you have the moment where he gets sick, and the whole, what is it? Escape, chase, and goodbye scene. Always loved that whole sequence. Never pay attention to the music. Always, obviously remember the the classic moment of it all, and all that. But in past couple of years, like, I would listen to the whole thing, and I'm like, what the hell? This whole sequence, just 15 minutes long, beautiful music all the way around. And I brought this up many times, but I love the fact that what is it, John Williams? was trying to like work his music around the film and all that, but then Spielberg went, "No, you play it however you want. I'll fix it, fix it in post."
I'm gonna rework the whole movie around your music, my friend.
And yeah, that's amazing. But yeah, it's not much more to say to it other than just like it's a classic, you know. And there's just little moments within the family. I actually on rewatch I really liked how the brother and sister helped out with the alien. I never really noticed like how much they helped in hiding him and all that. Like I always just imagined it in my head like Elliot doing all the work, but it's like no, the brother and sister helped quite a lot, and was very surprised that the older brother was really covering for Elliot when he was gone all night. And then when Elliot came back without ET, he was just like, dude, I don't know where to go. And the brother went to the forest to try and find him. Like, dang, I don't know. I found that interesting on rewatch.
No, for sure. Like, the craft really speaks for itself. It's just such an atmospheric movie, such a beautiful looking movie. Jesus fucking Christ.
There's a lot of noise coming out of my place too. It's so weird.
I'm like, why?
Whatever.
I'm sorry. Yeah, I know. This is really getting to me. But yeah, there are a lot of things about this movie that you mentioned that I didn't notice myself as a kid, but then you go back in as an adult and you pick up on more. Like, the whole idea of like the whole divorce story. I mean, it's funny how like really when you think about it, this movie was supposed to be The Fabelmans, adjacent to that, and the fact that it was so far away from it at the end result just goes to tell you the lengths to which Steven was like, no, we're not doing this just yet. Wait such a long time before even trying to tackle or address any of that. But obviously, I mean, it's a great cast. Henry Thomas probably has to be in the ranking for one of the best child performers ever caught on film. I mean, talking about people speak about like the audition, the tape, there's a tape out there on YouTube if you want to go look for it, where he's auditioning for the role of Elliot, and he is so good in the audition. Like I think he's in front of like Steven Spielberg and Kathleen Kennedy, and at the end, after like Thomas is done, Steven's like, "All right, kid, you got the part."
Yeah, basically
like
right
then and there.
And like and mind you, like he just kind of came in last minute into the audition. They didn't really have lines to give him. Spielberg just went up to him and goes, "Okay, this is the situation. You're gonna talk to this guy. He's gonna take away your friend. Your best friend that that you don't want to be a part of. And so give us your reaction." And he fucking killed it on the first try and was like, "You got the part, kid." And like I think Spielberg was almost giving up on the fact of like, I don't think I'm gonna find my Elliot. And yeah, I also like the story of the guy who played Keys, the government dude. Apparently he tried to audition for Indiana Jones, and his agent told him to get like that hat that Indiana Jones wears and like go to the audition. He goes in, trips and falls, and just goes, "Okay, I'm done." It just goes away. Basically, no, he's not gonna get the role. But Spielberg remembered him and was like, "I think I can get you for this one," and that's how he got the role for Keys. So I thought that was interesting.
I sent you something which we'll watch in a few minutes, but I have some information. Here's from the production notes. After his parents' divorce in 1960, Spielberg filled the void with an imaginary alien companion that he later recalled as a friend who would be the brother he never had and a father that he didn't feel he had anymore. In 1978, he announced that he would shoot a film entitled Growing Up, which he would film in 4 weeks. However, the project was set aside due to delays in 1941. the concept of making a small autobiographical film about childhood would stay with him. He also thought about a follow-up to Close Encounters of the Third Kind and began to develop a darker project he had planned with John Sayles called Night Skies. Filming in which malevolent aliens terrorize families. It's an interesting concept. I wonder if that's going to play into Disclosure Day. There is rumors that right there, that Night Skies project in some way might play into the new movie, but we'll see. While he was filming Raiders of the Lost Ark, he told screenwriter Melissa Matheson about Night Skies and developed a subplot from the failed project in which Buddy, the only friendly alien, befriends an autistic child. Buddy's abandonment on Earth in the script's final scene inspired the concept of E.T. Matheson wrote a first draft called E.T. and Me in 8 weeks, which Spielberg considered perfect. The script went through 2 more drafts, one by Matthew Robbins, which deleted and doesn't matter. Robbins helped create the chase sequence and suggested the scene where E.T. got drunk. In mid-1981, while Raiders was being promoted, Columbia Pictures met with Spielberg to discuss the script. After having to develop Night Skies with the director as the intended sequel to Close Encounters. However, Marvin Aronofsky, the head of Columbia Pictures Marketing and Research Development, concluded that it had limited commercial appeal or potential, believing that it would appeal mostly to young children. And then John Veidt, the president of Columbia's Worldwide Productions, also felt that the script was not good or scary enough to be financially viable. On the advice of Aronofsky and Veidt, Columbia CEO Frank Price, who had already funneled nearly $1 million into the film's development, was now calling it a wimpy Walt Disney movie. He informed Spielberg that the project was officially being put into turnaround. Spielberg took the project to Sid Sheinberg, president of MCA, and the then parent company of Universal Pictures. Spielberg told Sheinberg to acquire E.T.'s the script from Columbia, which he did for $1 million, and struck a deal with Price in which Columbia would retain 5% of the film's net profits. Veidt later recalled that, "I think in 1982, we made more on that picture than we did on any of our films." That's the head of Columbia talking there. It's like they made more out of the tiny little 5% they got from E.T. than any of the actual movies that they made and released in theaters. Insane. One of the cute things that I like about, the behind the scenes stuff is that Spielberg went out of his way to film the movie in chronological order to make it easier for the kids to have a sense of continuity. Sorry. Oh, that yawn got the best of me. I'm sorry about that. And of course, do we even have to say anything about that music? God damn.
Yeah,
probably one of the best scores ever composed. They talk about the premiere of this movie a lot. It premiered in Houston, Texas, the 1982 Cannes Film Festival's closing gala on May 26th. When it opened on June 11th, it opened at number 1 with a gross of $11 million. I don't know what that translates to inflation, so don't even ask me. I don't do numbers. And stayed at the top of the box office for 6 weeks. It then fluctuated between the first and second positions until October. So from June to October, it was number 1 or number 2, before returning to the top spot for the final time in December following a Christmas re-release. In its second weekend, it recorded the highest grossing second weekend of all time, surpassing the record set by Superman 2 in 1981. In its fourth weekend, it recorded the highest grossing weekend of all time, surpassing, okay, now we're just getting into records, whatever. In 83, which was the year after, E.T. surpassed Star Wars to become the highest grossing film of all time. How big do you have to be to pass Star Wars? By the end of its theatrical, it had grossed a bunch of money. Box Office Mojo estimates the film sold over 120 million tickets in its initial U.S. run. Also, what was it? Spielberg earned $500,000 a day from his share of the profits. Can we just say that again? A day, he earned $500,000, while the Hershey Company's profits rose 65% due to the film's prominent placement of Reese's Pieces.
Mm-hmm. It was originally going to be M&M's, but they said no, and they changed it to Reese's Pieces.
Man, a lot of people really regret not being part of this movie. I just realized, not just the freaking chocolate guys, but the movie guy. Can you believe Columbia turned this down?
Mm-hmm.
That it is sad that they got more money out of 5% of the profits from this than any movie there. I mean, that just goes to show you that no one remembers the movies they released that year. Jesus, they called it a wimpy Walt Disney movie.
Mm-hmm. It was really the Reese's Pieces thing. It was really one of the first ones to like use
product placement.
Product placement, yeah, within the movie, and that became popular. Which it's been overdone.
Thank you, Michael Bay.
I was gonna say
Michael Bay in the Transformers movies, yeah.
But yeah, that was interesting.
Yeah, it was also a merchandising success. I mean, this was a huge film. It held the global record for the most successful film until it was surpassed by another Spielberg film in 1993 for Jurassic Park. Isn't that hilarious?
Mm-hmm.
And it was re-released in 2022 for its IMAX, and that was the 40th anniversary. Critical response: Roger Ebert, the best film critic to ever live, said this. He gave the film 4 out of 4 stars and wrote, "It works as science fiction. It's sometimes as scary as a monster movie, and at the end, when the lights go up, there's not a dry eye in the house." He later added it to his canon of great movies, structuring the essay as a letter to his grandchildren about watching it with them. Of the scene with the flying bicycles, he writes, "I remember when I saw the movie at Cannes, even the audience there, people who had seen thousands of movies, let out a whoop at that moment." Pauline Kael, for The New Yorker, wrote, "Spielberg respects the conventions of children's stories, and because he's able to create the atmosphere for a mythic experience." Obviously, we know how successful this movie was. Let me look over at Letterboxd. Here is Silent Dawn. The forest. Dark, damp, cold, alone. The beginning of E.T. is unparalleled in its purity and sustained beauty and fear. It is a simple beginning of a simple story, one that is heightened by Spielberg's immaculate direction and John Williams' faultless score. E.T. sees the world at its core, full of wonder, the rabbit, mystery, the tall trees, and fear, the group of men. Personally speaking, I don't think there's a better opening sequence in any film than in E.T. the Extraterrestrial. It is both an introduction to the masterful story and a culmination of all the wonderful aspects of the film as a whole. It's sentimental without being sappy. It's scary without being traumatizing. Well, that's debatable. It's funny without resorting to forced humor. It's a directorial triumph, but it never feels showy. E.T. is just perfect on every level. I don't even think I'm overselling it when I say it might be the most human film ever made. Childhood, troubled marriage, friendship, crushes, love, anger, misunderstanding. Spielberg goes for the heart, and it works. It works so well. Every frame, every scene, and every line feels important. Almost half of the scenes are insanely iconic, and for good reason. The opening, the first encounter, the frog dissection, the discovery in the creek, the invasion, the bike ride, the ending. How did Steven do it? My face hurts so much after watching it because I smile too much. If I didn't have that problem, I'd probably watch it every day. So many scenes that I even was not even thinking of right now. There are moments in here that as a kid terrified me so much. Like when Elliot goes to his backyard, which by the way, that was a crazy backyard he had. I guess there were like whatever. But when it gets closer and closer to like, what's behind that rustling noise, and you know what's about to happen. Because that's actually the first real reveal of that character, E.T. The look, the scream. I remember being a little kid and just being as freaked out as Elliot, if not even more. And yes, that sequence there has basically inspired a legion of haters of this movie because of how traumatized they were by that scene. We should say that the president of that organization is run by our very own Alexis Moreno. So, to be clear about that. Every time she sees a little ET, she's like, gives me like this big grimace that elicits feelings of disgust and fear. I don't think it did that. I did that for you, but she was scared as shit about that. That's what she says anyway. But the one that's also just a bit more unnerving is how out of nowhere it comes out of, but then just like the music, the bump. The fucking astronauts. What you think are astronauts? They're just scientists with like these, suits.
Mm-hmm.
They just fucking barge in. They walk through the door, and you're like, what the fuck? Then they try to run out the back, and then like there's one that literally puts their hands through like the screen windows and or even the horrifying way that E.T. looks after he's sick.
Oh, yeah, for sure. I mean, weirdly, the backyard scene, that actually never scared me. That was another scene of like, the atmosphere, was familiar. I always spend a lot of time in my backyard. And
are you saying you've been scared in your backyard several times because of unknown creatures from uninhabitable planets?
I wasn't scared. That's the thing. I wasn't scared of that scene. It just
I'm not hearing a denial.
But yeah, it's just the atmosphere about it. Something felt familiar about it, and I really like it. I was for sure freaked out about the government people barging into the homes and all that.
Yeah.
And freaked out by sick ET by the end. But yeah, the backyard one was not that scary for me, weirdly.
Interesting. Yeah.
And
go ahead.
I mentioned earlier the scene where E.T. gets drunk and he's watching the TV and Elliot's recreating that scene. I was really thinking about it the whole time, like, why do I like that scene so much? And I think it's just hitting me like it was just the editing. Like it was the first moment of watching of two separate scenes playing at the same time, and the way that it was editing, it might have just started my love for editing. Like I edit these videos, the podcast, and then you'll see once I upload it that our High School Musical commentary, like how much I've edited very differently from others before and all that. Not very, but like you'll see some differences for sure. And
someone's teasing something great. I'm sure you'll watch it. Those of you who are listening here.
And so, yeah, I really do love editing. And I think that might have been just like the first time I've noticed, like my love for it. Like, I just imagine a little kid just looking at both things, going like, "Whoa, it's going at the same time! Oh my god, that's so interesting!" Like I think that's just what it is. I liked it so much. So yeah.
Do you want to go ahead and open up what I sent you?
Nowadays, you might hear someone say in regards to a movie or a television show that it has that Amblin feel. They're talking about E.T. Amblin's made a ton of movies, but they're talking about E.T. Stranger Things would not exist without E.T., like at all. It's funny because even though this movie is so influential, it does feel like over the years, it's not getting new fans. I know that's not entirely true, and I'm sure there are plenty of young people who like this movie. But I say this because when I was still a Jehovah's Witness, I took a ton of people I knew to see this movie when it was re-released in theaters. And it was a lot of fun to see it on the big screen. Unfortunately, I think it was the special edition version with all the E.T. eyeball special effects, and when Spielberg removed the guns and replaced them with walkie-talkies, which he has admitted was a really bad idea. It was me and some of my friends at the time who were of the same age, but then there were like some teenagers who went with us, and they thought it was so boring until the last 20 minutes. They were completely bored by it. They thought it was really cheesy. They thought E.T. looked stupid, and they didn't like it at all. And I've seen people talk about this movie over the years in that way, that it's overrated or that John Williams is really the person you should be thanking for all of the tears we cry when we watch the movie. And I do have to say, I kind of agree with that part. But for me, I don't think that E.T. is a case of you had to be there. I wasn't even alive in 1982. This movie has always felt special to me because I think it really does speak to the loners and the outcasts, people who don't have a lot of friends. Maybe they're heavily bullied and they're looking to reach out and feel some kind of connection. And if you don't have that in your life, or you've never experienced that kind of loneliness, this movie might not speak to you as much as others. I'm not saying you have to be lonely to appreciate E.T., but I do think that it helps. I think that if you've ever gone through that kind of feeling, especially when you're little, this movie will mean more to you. Henry Thomas is a fantastic actor still. He is so good now. I've seen him in so many things. I just recently finished.
So that's basically what I was saying. And I remember at the time, I want to say that Stuckman did this review, I want to say in 2022 or thereabout, but I think it was around the time of the 40th anniversary. And I do recall at the time, just to me, if this movie in a way falls into the category of, yes, it's legendary, it's well remembered, but let's just put it out there. The film bros, if you want to call them that, they would not put this up with the same. They wouldn't put it up with Jaws. They wouldn't put it up with Close Encounters. They wouldn't put it up with Raiders. I think it's crazy. They wouldn't put it up with Jurassic Park, and I'm like, I don't know personally, David, what you feel is Steven's best movie, but I think in a lot of ways, I think it might be this one. I don't know if it's definitive just yet, but
yeah, I don't know if it's like my the favorite of Spielberg's, but like if we're just talking about Spielberg movies in general, like I think it should be in top 5 for people at the very least, because like I said, it's a classic. Like it's the first of many other movies like it, and he just everything worked in its favor. I mean, honestly, like it just felt at the right moment for him to make that movie, and everything worked out in his favor.
And are we really not going to talk about the Stranger Things of it all?
Yeah,
like, it because 11 is basically E.T., but if in case it was an alien, it's just a girl,
and more violent,
and she has superpowers, and sure, that too. But it's funny how like E.T. is not seen as cool. Obviously, Stranger Things is. It has a lot in common, except what they did is they turned E.T. into an X-Man.
Mm-hmm. Yeah. Yeah, like I said, it's the first of many like it that are, people get inspired by it and all that. So, yeah, like I said, for a Spielberg movie, it should be on tops for a lot of people. So,
yeah. I never watched the 20th anniversary special edition. Very clearly what happened there is George Lucas got to Steven.
Oh, yeah. He was very much excited about the whole CGI of it all. Some differences in the beginning when E.T. is running away from those government people. In the original, it's just this red light and being pulled or like being put in some cart. and that's E.T. running away. And the 20th edition, it's a CGI E.T. basically like jumping and running to get away from them and all that. And then you see the moment where he sees his ship flying away. I say he, but it's not. E.T. Sees the ship flying away, and E.T.'s all sad. And then there's a scene, I actually quite like it, where Elliot and E.T. are looking at each other in the mirror, and they're just kind of like, he's sort of making faces. Elliot is making faces, and he kind of like puts himself higher, like he's like taller than E.T. But then E.T. extends its neck, and to kind of show, I was like, yeah, I can be taller too. And Spielberg sort of explains that as like, that's E.T. feeling okay to be vulnerable with Elliot in that moment, and it's like it's a really sweet moment, honestly. But it's just like an extra addition to it. Other things, yeah, mostly just trying to add more emotion to E.T.'s eyes, which I feel like it was always unnecessary. Never really, I don't think it never really needed that. And then, yeah, the walkie talkies of it, I really don't see a problem with that. Like, I think his reasoning was pretty fine when he first did it. But okay. I can't remember what else. I just know those were the standout, the neck part. I feel like there might have been some extra stuff in that drunk sequence, but
yeah, that the 20th anniversary edition, like which Spielberg has gone on to say was a mistake. You really can't. It's not available. Like, I feel like it was part of the 20th anniversary DVD, obviously, but we have it here that when the film was celebrating its 30th anniversary in 2012, and then for the future releases on Blu-ray and at home video, they did not include that as one of the versions you were available to watch. So it's kind of like,
yeah. I mean, I have the 20th anniversary edition, so so I didn't see it.
You do, don't you?
Yeah.
You did show it to us the other time. You did show it to us on the show, or you just showed it to me?
On the show.
On the show. Yeah. So that's really interesting. Just keep in mind at the time, like, the whole culture behind special editions, like, Steven's been very close to George Lucas all the time, and as if you know your George Lucas history, man, he really got lost in the sauce of special editions. So there is that. I do remember, though, there was this like short little like commercial, I guess you want to call it, in 2019 on November 28th. NBC's broadcast of the 93rd Macy's Thanksgiving Day Parade, Xfinity released a 4-minute commercial calling it a short film sequel called The Holiday Reunion. Can I just tell you? That shit made me cry. Like, the minute, like, I saw what was happening, I was immediately just like, no way. And for me, it was great because, like, this is not a movie where we're gonna be doing the same thing all over again. It's just a freaking, like, 4 minutes. And to see the look on, and I think it helped that they actually made a puppet, but to have Henry Thomas back and to see Henry Thomas's reaction of, like, you're back, like, it was one of these moments where it's like, oh my God, it actually felt real. It felt like it was them. I fucking adored it.
Yeah.
I was like,
probably one of the most perfect sequels. At least, like, in terms of, like, decades passing. One of the only ones that are, like, best sequels.
Because you don't need anything else.
Yeah.
I mean, really, you don't need an E.T. sequel. And if ever you were to do anything, this would have been it. And that was that.
Yeah.
And there needed to be nothing else said.
No, yeah. It's just, that's literally all you want to see is E.T. and Elliot be back together. And that's it. You don't need this whole storyline of the government going back, to his house trying to capture E.T. again. Like, nah, we can skip it. It's fine. And technically there were sequels. No, I think, was it a sequel? There's that, iconic history of the Atari ET game. That was a thing that put Atari out of business.
Sure.
And then I did see in my 20th edition thing that there is a sequel book to the movie where you go to ET's planet, you find some more things about it, and I think ET is sort of like reminiscing of, when he met Elliot. That's I keep correcting myself on it because in both 20th and the 40th editions they keep mentioning the fact that ET isn't a he or a she. It is just a straight up plant. It's
you want to respect pronouns.
Yeah, I do, especially for
someone's
ET.
a little woke. Didn't you hear, David? Woke's out of fashion.
That is not just me though.
No, I'm kidding. Actually, woke is back.
No, but like
woke's back.
In the behind the scenes stuff, they keep saying like everyone treated the ET puppy with respect. Like they just treated it like it's another cast member. So I'm gonna do the same for ET. So anyway,
you gotta respect it, man. Respect the woke. Hey, no, woke is back. Bad Bunny won the Super Bowl. What can I tell you? It was a big thing. Yeah, no, it's a timeless film. It's a timeless film, and I'm hopeful that in these next 10 years, more and more people are gonna remember it, find it, fall in love with it all over again. And to quote Agent Philip J. Coulson from the series finale of My Favorite Show, which the reaction commentary to that is fast gonna come back on this channel in case anyone's wondering where that went. But after, it was funny is in the last moments of the series, Daisy was saying how Sousa was crying when he saw E.T. for the first time, and Coulson was like, great movie. Definitely is.
Yep.
It's hard to know where to go from here, except when you remember that the entire time that E.T. was being made, there was something else happening in the background in Steven Spielberg's life as far as film is concerned. And that is a film called Poltergeist, which came out in theaters only 1 week before E.T. It opened in theaters June 4th, 1982. So there's a lot to say about this one as far as like, why is it even in here? Because officially, is this a Steven Spielberg movie? I mean, it's not directed by him, not officially, but there have been long-standing like rumors and different contradictory accounts. Like, I think like to this day, there's like things that you could say that are in favor of him actually being the ghost director. And then there are things that are in favor of like, no, he was just there every day, which to an extent would make a lot of sense because not only was he the producer of this movie, he wrote it. Like he wrote this movie. And so it does feel in a way like it is his because he wrote the damn movie and he hardly ever writes movies. So this is an interesting movie. As Spielberg was contractually unable to direct another film while he made E.T., Tobe Hooper was selected based on his work on the Texas Chainsaw Massacre and The Funhouse. The origin of Poltergeist can be traced to Night Skies, which Spielberg conceived as a horror sequel to his 1977 film Close Encounters. Hooper was less interested in the sci-fi elements and suggested they collaborate on a ghost story. Accounts differ as to the level of Spielberg's involvement, but it is clear that he was frequently on set during filming and exerted significant creative control. For that reason, some have said that Spielberg should be considered the film's co-director or even main director, though both Spielberg and Hooper have disputed this. Okay. Knowing this was a horror movie, avoided the vast majority of my life avoiding it like the plague. Because as a kid, I would not go out of my way to watch horror movies. I would go out of my way to avoid them at all costs. And this one is definitely I don't think it needs to be said, obviously, but like, I mean, it's definitely one of the most iconic horror movies ever made.
Yeah, growing
Like,
up, I thought this was like as scary as Exorcist or something, and like I actually avoided it too.
Yeah. But I think it worked out in the end. As an adult, I watched this and I loved it. I loved this movie so much. And I think I was emotionally mature and secure enough to not be completely like spooked by it. Although there are some moments where it's just like, wow, it's really not hiding what it's trying to say here. Here is once again, Silent Dawn. One of the great films about a family and how their ideals subvert and reinforce our own personal experiences. Not every suburban parental unit smokes weed, but Hooper exemplifies a sparkle of individuality and character within each person in spite of the houses lining up like clones with a master bedroom. Poltergeist is a study into the familial, devotion across boundaries, sympathy across portals and dimensions. The Freeling household is one of many in the cul-de-sac, infested curves along the side of streets of Americana. But Hooper reveals how the 2-parent, 3 children, 1 dog dynamic resonates into the night, long past the Star-Spangled Banner cutting into agonizing static. This is oddly sci-fi tale in many aspects, juggling questions regarding the endurance of love, dimensional travel, and the monsters which attempt to tear gaping holes into the vital arteries of our lives. None of this would land if Hooper's economy wasn't so, efficient, or if Spielberg's involvement didn't relegate the bracing intimacy of the family into a common archetype ready to be ripped to shreds. So much within this horror classic succeeds because Spielberg's mold is desolated, assaulted, attacked, kidnapped when refracted through Hooper's pessimism. If they both yearn for the Freelings to be safe, 2 different artists aim for the same endpoint, but their varying creative decisions mix and mash into a haunted phantasmagoria of sincerity and lingering evil. Its images of closets, clowns, trees, and swimming pools are ordinary artifacts manifesting devilishly, but on the same wavelength. There's endearment and warmth, compassion and risk battling against such horrors. We're home, baby. We're home. Can you find me? Can you find a way to us, baby? Is a line which lingers unlike any other line in dialogue in horror. There are a variety of ghosts and poltergeists, but truth and magic reverberate above all. So what's funny is I saw basically this movie, but in a different version of it because of cultural osmosis. You know, when a film is so big, it kind of like has an impact, and it gets redone and parodied. I'm trying to remember. Did we do a To the Table on this movie? I think we did. I think Peter and I did do it To the Table on this. The last time we did this, years and years ago. And I think I said at the time that my first ever interaction with the storyline of Poltergeist was Family Guy. There was a Family Guy episode where it was just this whole movie. And what happens? An Indian burial ground. Or it was a Indian but I mean this movie, Poltergeist.
That's always how people talked about the movie, that it was the house was made in an Indian burial ground, and that's always I was expecting that information to show up in the movie, but in it though it wasn't that at all. It was just a regular, cemetery that they built over, and you see the people there, and there's just it looks like they probably from the 20s or something. At least some of them look like they were from the 20s. And I think they even said like there's certain items that they found that was like 100 years old, and so like it couldn't really be that.
Well, it could have. I mean, right?
Like, I mean, for sure. But like what they were finding and what most of the evidence that they were showing, like it didn't seem like it was some Indian burial ground. It just seemed like some cemetery that was probably made,
right,
a couple hundred. Like about 100 years ago. So
Yeah, it's definitely a thing in horror, right? Where people stupidly build on cemeteries.
Mm-hmm. I love the ending of it. How it all kind of builds up to that, but I don't know. I mean,
I gotta ask you, man, how did you enjoy this movie?
okay, yeah. I was enjoying it. The begin right up to the end, I thought it was okay. I was really liking the family. I was really liking, how they were dealing with the ghost. I really thought it was just gonna be like a slow build to like, because that's how it usually is, like a slow build to, finding out that this place is haunted and like what exactly is haunting them. But no, we get into it right away, and they're just kind of being like, "What? That's crazy!" Like all these paranormal stuff happening, but then they immediately realize, like, "Oh wait, no, this is really, really bad." And then I think the moment though where I was like, "Oh, I think I'm really starting to like this," was when they went to save the daughter, and you had the mom and dad, they had that kiss right before she goes into the portal, and I was like, oh, actually, like I really like this moment. Like they really did build up their relationship. That they have like a good, healthy one. They seem to be good parents, and I mean, I love the moments though where they had to communicate with the daughter, and the psychic lady was like, who's more stern with the kids, and I was like, oh, I guess it's the dad, and they're kind of fighting, like, well, I mean, hold on, I'm not that stern, but it's like, okay, I don't care who it is, like, okay, if it's you, try to contact her, tell her you're, if she doesn't answer, like, you're gonna give her a spanking and all that. It's like, I never hit the kids, and like, it's just that intensity of it. It was really, really interesting, and so, and then yeah, building up to the moment where she goes into the portal, I really like that moment, and then everything after that. I got worried for a second because I thought when the ghosts, I guess, attack again after they save the daughter, I thought it was gonna end like Nightmare on Elm Street style, where like they think they stop the bad guy, but then he just shows up out of nowhere. It's like, I gotcha, and then kills the main character. I thought that was gonna happen. I'm like, no, but no, it just kept going and going, and I loved how the coffins and the bodies were popping up from the floor, the storms, coming in, all the crazy, I guess, demonic stuff happening within the movie, and the moment with the dad going like, it's like, you son of a bitch, you did it, you moved the gravestones, but not the bodies. You only moved the gravestones. I love that line so much. Also took me a while to realize who that actor was. He looks very different, obviously from now. I was like, oh no way, that's him.
Which actor?
The dad.
Oh yeah, Craig T. Nelson, Mr. Incredible.
Yeah, it took me a second to realize that was him. But yeah, everything building up to that moment, I loved it. I really thought this might have been one of my favorite horror movies.
No, for sure. So, what do you think? Who really directed this movie? Honestly, like, do you have suspicions, or do you feel like it
from a style perspective, I want to say, Toby or
Toby, yeah, Toby Hooper.
Toby Hooper, just because I feel like Spielberg would have done some things differently in terms of positioning the camera, in terms of like moving it and all that. Like I can see his writing in it because of especially those family moments of the mom and dad, this moment within their bedroom is just them bonding, and then the lady who first investigates talking to the son. I don't know if you remember the moment, but it was like the first night that they spent there, and
yes,
I can't remember much of the conversation, but like it was just the son, like you talking about how it's like, I don't understand like how these souls work. Basically, just like him sort of trying to understand the concept of death and all that. Like those moments, I like that's Spielberg right there, writing wise. But in terms of directing and what I mean is like, how the camera works, editing, maybe even performances. I think that's all Toby.
All right, let's see here. As we know, a clause in Spielberg's contract with Universal prevented him from directing another movie while preparing E.T. According to Toby Hooper, the core okay, we already went through all this. Let me just get to the main thing. So, there were suggestions that Spielberg, in addition to being Poltergeist's co-producer and co-writer, had also served as its de facto co-director. This view was bolstered by various statements Spielberg made about his involvement, including a Los Angeles Times quote on May 24th of 82. He said, "Toby isn't a take charge sort of guy. If a question was asked and an answer wasn't immediately forthcoming, I'd jump in and say what we could do. Toby would nod in agreement, and that became the process of collaboration." That same article noted that the DGA, the Directors Guild of America, had opened an investigation into the question of whether or not Hooper's official credit was being denigrated by statements Spielberg has made, apparently claiming authorship. The investigation ended in an arbitrator's ruling that the MGM UA Entertainment Company must pay $15,000 to Hooper because the studio gave producer Spielberg a bigger credit than Hooper got in its trailers, although also noting that broader issues of dispute exist between producer-writer Spielberg and the director, whatever. Co-producer Frank Marshall told the LA Times that the creative force of the movie was Steven. Toby was the director and was on the set every day. But Steven did the design for every storyboard, and he was on set every day except for 3 days when he was in Hawaii with Lucas. However, Hooper stated that he did fully half of the storyboards. In 2007, Aiden Cool News interview, Zelda Rubinstein discussed her recollections of the shooting process. She said Steven directed all 6 days. She was on set. Toby set up the shots and Steven made the adjustments. She also alleged that Hooper allowed some unacceptable chemical agents into his work and that during her audition, Toby was only partially there. Comments from actor James Karen categorized Rubinstein's remarks as unfair to Hooper. She laid it into Toby, and I don't know why. Toby was kind to her. Damn. 2012, Rue Morgue, that's a magazine, Rue Morgue article commemorating the 30th anniversary. Interviews were conducted with several cast and crew. James Karen said, Toby had a hard time on that film. It's tough when a producer is on set every day, and there's always been a lot of talk about that. I consider Toby my director. That's my stand on all those rumors, Martin Casella stated. So much of Poltergeist's looks and feels like a Spielberg movie, but my recollection is that Toby was mostly directing. Oliver Robbins, the guy who sets up the shots, blocks the actors and works with the crew to create a vision, is the director. In those terms, Toby was the director. He's the one who directed me anyway. Yeah. There were more quotes, there were more people, but it all doesn't really lead to anything new.
Mm-hmm.
Like you basically are free to believe what you want to believe, but I think I don't know. Maybe it does feel like a lot like Spielberg, just because he wrote it, he's the producer, and he was there every day, and he was making contributions to the directing.
Mm-hmm.
So I could definitely see a case that maybe he was a co-director, even though he's not officially credited as one. It might feel that way.
Yeah.
But then again, as you mentioned, there were some shots where I'm like, if this was Steven's movie, I think it might be a little bit different.
Yeah.
Than how it was. Maybe a little bit more dynamic, shall we say, than how it was. But overall, that's Poltergeist, and I think it is, in many ways, one of the first huge films, huge from a certain standpoint, obviously, it wasn't E.T., but this decade, the 80s, he's going to begin producing high-profile hits that are only going to further bolster how Spielberg, the name Spielberg, just became synonymous with Americana in the 80s and going forward. But I think that brings us to the end of this particular episode. Really interesting list of movies. The next 4, I believe, are going to be, I think we're going in chronological order here. They're going to be Temple of Doom, The Color Purple, Empire of the Sun, and probably Last Crusade. I think. I do, though, get the sense that if we want to just, I'm not sure how much will be said on Last Crusade, we might be able to sneak Hook in there as well.
Ooh.
Hook and Always. That's an interesting one, too. We need to be careful about those. So I have Temple of Doom, Last Crusade. Oh, they're separated by a few years. Color Purple, Empire of the Sun, which are both dramas. Then there is Always, which is another one of those films that falls into the 1941 category of like, what? And then there's Hook, which is an interesting film. I've always thought it was really good.
Yeah.
But people hate that movie, man. Even to this very day, there's so much hatred about it. I remember rewatching it a few years ago with Colin. I'm like, what the fuck is going on? This is a great movie. Like, what is the big deal?
I mean, we'll get into it when we get into it. But the main complaint I always hated was Robin Williams in the beginning of the movie. Like, I saw one that I was just like, the fuck are you talking about? Whatever.
Yeah.
But, yeah, we'll get it. We'll get into it.
Well, David, I want to thank you for joining us here. We are at the point where I think my eyelids are beginning to shut.
Yeah,
I think yours are as well. So I think that's probably time to cut it out for today. Thank you for listening. Thank you for joining us. Stay tuned for the amazing content that we have coming for you if you love movies under our red spotlight and more. We will see you guys next time. Bye-bye.
Bye.